Incoming students, in this time of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, when your thoughts and images can be broadcast worldwide the second you think them, I wish only that I had an audio recording of what you said this morning as your minivan or SUV packed to the headliner, angled down off the interstate onto Highway 231. What did you say to your parents and siblings? What crossed your mind as you realized you were getting close to Greencastle? Because whether your journey to this place began in Africa or Cloverdale, you had to know you were almost here. I ask because I know what I thought when the minivan carrying my shower tote and Motley Crue cassette tapes came down the ramp from I-70 in the fall of 1991. I looked at my parents seated in the front and I said, I can't do this. Turn around, I'm going home. My younger brother was in the back seat with me and I remember him laughing. Look at how nervous he is. He yelled, he's gonna puke, Mom. He can't take it. He can't take it. Let me interrupt my own speech for a public service announcement of sorts. New students, the other thing I remember about that day is how many mistakes my parents kept making. It was embarrassing. Looking back on it, I think they were probably doing all right. It's a tough day for parents, I've since learned. They're all going to cry as they drive back to the interstate. So be nice to them, will you? End of PSA. Well, no wonder I had doubts. See, I was a DePauw student, but I didn't fit in too well here, at least not initially. I came from a town smaller than Cloverdale, and I came right off the farm. I had graduated 14th out of 50 kids, not from an elite prep school, but from a tiny public school in the rural community of Milan, Indiana. My mom taught first grade. My dad was a farmer and a welder. I came to DePauw when admissions was desperate and forced to take just about every student who applied. If I had known more about the school and how badly I would stick out here, I would not have come. I was as green as the corn on my dad's farm. When I moved into Humbert 419, I had never attended a poetry reading, but I had held witness at a dozen tractor pulls. I'd never been skiing, played golf, or traveled out of the country. The summer before I came to DePauw, my brother and I helped our dad pack a prolapsed uterus back into a cow. It'll be fun to tell my new friends this story, I thought. Well, my new friends weren't into that. My randomly assigned roommate came from a private school in Chicago. His dad had recently been on Good Morning America as the president of the Endodontist Association. My roommate was pre-med, and he already seemed smarter and more mature than most of the professionals I'd met back home. On the first night, my roommate stayed up late studying the packet of optional reading material our academic advisor had passed out as suggested reading. He took notes while I was busy taping up my poison posters. By the way, I've often told that story about the cow, and my dad heard me use that line 8 years ago, leading him to remark to my brothers, he's sure getting a lot of miles out of that uterus. I met other first years on Humbert 4. They all wanted to be doctors, dentists, and lawyers. I followed some of them into animal biology class, where they got A and A minuses, and I pulled down a rock solid and respectable D, which stands for did not retain much. I called my younger brother on the landline and said, I'm gonna tell you what, these DePauw kids are some smart sons of bitches now. I didn't know how to study. I hadn't read enough. I'd barely spent any time looking through a microscope. But DePauw was not then and is not now closed to kids from less typical backgrounds. The one thing I could do as well or better than some of my peers was write, so I worked as hard as I could to write the best papers using my floor mate's word processor. No one had laptops in those dark days of the early 90s. I spent time with my new friends and we figured out each other's lives. I lived for a semester in London, spent a winter term teaching creative writing to junior high kids, and hosted the heavy metal radio show on WGRE alongside two of my new best friends. I took classes that changed my life from professors who were so good at their jobs I couldn't wait to emulate them. When I graduated from DePauw, I wasn't a better person, but I was a more complete and fuller version of myself. While on this campus, I became who I was meant to be. 10 years after our commencement, my group of friends and I were at Marvin's. All were back in Indiana for the alumni weekend that occurs here in early June. Looking at my friends around the table, it struck me, every single one of us was doing exactly what he had dreamed of doing while living in DePauw dorms as first-year students. It had not happened overnight, and it hadn't happened without a lot of hard work. But now Chad owned his own medical building and a dentistry practice in Noblesville. Tom was a partner with a law firm in Arizona, working alongside the beefy NFL ref Ed Hockley, who also happens to be an attorney. Jeff and Matt, my first-year roommate, were ER doctors in Chicago. And most unlikely of all, I was teaching in the same classrooms of Asbury where I had taken my creative writing classes. We had done it. With DePauw's help, we had made our dreams come true in uncanny fashion. Following my commencement and my time in graduate school, I returned to DePauw, where I've taught now for over 20 years. So I know a little bit about the transformative experience that awaits you here. And I know better than anyone that DePauw can shift the very axis of the earth, because that's what it did for me. In the time I've taught here, I've seen plenty of students come here great and leave even better, just as my roommate did. And I've seen an equally large number come here a little green, as I was, and leave a good deal more worldly and wise. So I've come to expect great things from you. There are things you need to understand, though. This is a very good school, working to become an even better one. It's certainly a stronger institution today than it was when it accepted me. But DePauw's reputation alone cannot transform you. There are possibilities here, and I promise you will not outgrow what this school offers you. You will not get bigger than this place. But they are only that, possibilities. If you intend to merely float through here and leave the same person you are today, then you can do that. But if you're here today, it means you've convinced admissions that you are not that kind of person. You are something more than a good test score, a respectable GPA, and a high-class rank. We hope you are. We hope you are someone who is willing to work. We hope you are ready to evolve into someone better than you are right now. We hope you want to improve the part of the world that touches you. And we hope you understand that this includes DePauw and Putnam County. DePauw currently faces its fair share of difficulties. Over the last 10 years, costs are up and enrollment is down. Let's face it, what we're doing here is an expensive model. No business person would recommend it. It's cheaper to mass produce everything, including education. But we're doing this in a way that has worked well for a long time. As I've heard Coach Lynch of DePauw's football team say about an upcoming stretch of games, we have challenges and opportunities. Well, DePauw does too. So do you. Know that there is a long list of smart people, some of whom you will meet and others you will never meet, who are working hard to make this the best place it can be. You're a big part of that. DePauw doesn't quit. I said earlier to grab the mic when you can, but let me also say this. This place has been here on this ground for over 180 years. DePauw's first students came to study on horseback down trails of mud. They were not tweeting while they did so. So while we respect your knowledge, try listening to the people on this stage and those working on this campus as well, including those busting it to serve your food, clean your dorms, fix your coffee, and mow the grass. And Greencastle has been here even longer than DePauw. So try listing out the things that are here instead of noting what is not. Everyone here can teach you things, but you need to first listen. I've learned that the longer I listen, the more likely I am to get handed a microphone. So while I'm curious about what you said as you turned onto Highway 231 this morning, and feel free to tweet that out into the world, know that it really doesn't matter. Whether you're scared to death or overconfident, you're starting over right now. Beginning today, you are both a DePauw student, all caps and exclamation points, and merely a DePauw student. You have arrived at a good undergraduate institution, along with tens of thousands of other talented, smart, well-groomed men and women across the planet. You've done everything, and yet you've done nothing. So who are you going to be? What are you going to do? You're here now, you'd better do something. Let me leave you with a tiny secret about your commencement robe, waiting for you somewhere out in the future. I have a cheap one, like yours will be, and it has these long sleeves that actually form a little pocket. Not a bad place for a handful of Skittles or a note. This past May, I reached into the pocket of my 20-plus-year-old robe that has been dry cleaned exactly once, and I found a strip of paper with a typed message on it. I felt like I'd never seen this before. It had been in there for so long. But at some point, I had written it and tucked it in there like a talisman. I unfolded the paper and it read, "You're not here to be mediocre. You are not here to be mediocre." I folded it and put it back in my pocket. Welcome to DePauw.